Let's see. We skip down here to approval. Anybody have any questions on the agenda? Consent agenda? That's moving right along. Go ahead,
A
Doug.
curiosity question.
Sure.
I voiced this just a moment ago. How many volunteer coaches do we have in our system?
I don't know, but we regulated it probably 2 years ago so we could minimize the number that we have. It's just we have so many sports. What do we have as it relates to each sport, Ms. Barnes?
The number for each sport?
Yeah.
We follow TSSAA regulations. I believe it's 3 for the primary sports and then 2 for, I call them secondary sports. They're not so large, not such participation in numbers.
So multiply that times X number of schools. What could you estimate a total number?
Probably 60 that have been approved so far this year. Estimation, close estimation. Schools are very good about submitting their requests for fall, mid-fall, and spring sports based on the timeline we presented to them. So it's worked very well since we've changed the procedures.
Fingerprint and all that too, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Must be fingerprinted and cleared before they come to
Yep.
board for approval.
Mr. Blair?
Once they've been approved, they just cycle on through. They don't have to be reapproved every year, do they?
As long as they stay consistent from year to year, they have to be approved by the board each year, but we don't require them to go through the complete process.
As long as they're fingerprinted and background checks and all those things, I think it's just a good idea to have as many people involved as we can have with our children, so. Let's see, any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right, let's go down to number 8, follow-up status.
Mr. Clardy's got several updates on various projects we have taking place. I thought we'd do it Thursday night at the board meeting in lieu of doing it tonight. That's all right.
Fine with everybody? Mr. Blair?
On the Oakland High School replacement, the section that had the library that we had such a problem with a couple of years ago, is that part of this, or was that already?
It's the main part of that roof. It'll be that, including that, and the main office area in front and all that front part of the building.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? I think, yeah, it'd be better to do it on Thursday. Number 9.
Waiver for new high school PE credit. With the adoption of the American Diploma Project, an additional 1/2 PE credit was included in the new 22 credit requirement. State board policy states the physical education requirements may be met. Let me stop there for a second. Didn't we change the wording of this? And I don't think I refreshed my computer. But I think it probably is.
It's in the motion.
Okay, it's in the motion. Okay. State board policy states the physical education requirement may be met by substituting a documented and equivalent time of physical activity in other areas, including marching band, junior ROTC, cheerleading, interscholastic athletics, and school-sponsored intramural athletics, or other areas such as dance approved by the local Board of Education. The system may choose how they reflect the participation on the transcript, with notation that it substitutes for the half credit in PE. Rutherford County High School principals recommend that we allow substituting 1/2 PE credit for the activities included in this motion. And the motion will be to approve, or the recommendation will be to approve the waiver of 1/2 PE high school credit and school-sponsored participation for rugby, cheerleading, ice hockey, swim team, dance, lacrosse, trap shooting, bowling, half-timers, TSSAA sports, including but not limited to football, golf, cross-country, basketball, wrestling, baseball, soccer, tennis, track, bowling, volleyball, softball, and state Board of Education approved courses in marching band and ROTC 3rd year.
Any questions?
I'm going to make a comment. No question that the physical activities that are generated by these activities are certainly more than just the normal PE, so we're not shortchanging the students by any means.
What's a half timer?
Well, part of the dilemma was if you had, if every kid took an additional half credit of PE, it really taxes your staff. We probably have to hire additional PE folks. The gymnasium probably wouldn't accommodate everybody, but as you say, this is every bit as relevant and, and challenging as the PE class.
Do you have a question?
What's a half-timer?
It's like a dance team, isn't it?
Yeah, dance team, halftime.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we're going from, I can't remember what it is under the old standards. Are we going from 1 credit to 1.5 or
It's
from
1.5 credits.
under the diploma?
Yes. And you also have to have a half credit in wellness, right? Yeah.
You got a question? Anybody else got a question? Okay, number 10.
Financial matters. Major capital projects, Fund 177 amendment. In Fund 177, major capital projects, 3 projects included in the 08-09 budget for Fund 177 had not been completed as of June 30th, 2009. This amendment takes $427,144 from Fund 177 fund balance and budgets it to the line items in Function 91-300, Education Capital Projects. Most of the funds will go to maintenance and repair services for the buildings. This $427,144 is needed to fund the completion of the following 3 projects. John Coleman renovation, $385,144. Smyrna High roof, $20,128. Christiana Elementary roof, $21,872, for a total of $427,144. These are not new funds. $650,758 in unexpected budgeted funds went to fund balance on July 1st, 2009, and the $427,144 needs to be rebudgeted. $223,604 difference that remains in the fund balance is the savings of last year's projects. And obviously, we'll recommend that you do that.
Questions? Okay, 11.
So we got time. Why don't we read over these policies?
I think
Yeah.
so.
New and revised policies. This is a second reading. A revision of policy 3.206, community use of school facilities. Revision will allow school facilities to be used for public, community, or recreational purposes, regardless of whether a benefit may accrue to the prospective user. Each organization will be required to obtain approval of the principal prior to the request being submitted for the board for approval. The director will implement procedures requiring for-profit groups to pay a minimum fee of $150 per day for the use of school facilities. Anything on that?
Questions on that one? B.
Revision of policy 4.6. Revisions will remove a section of the policy related to semester exams. This portion of the policy will be converted to an administrative procedure that will reflect changes in the State Board of Education's rules and regulations. This policy revision will also allow grades to be averaged if the student repeats 1 semester of the course.
Questions? C.
Revision of policy 6.409, child abuse and neglect. The revision will add language required by state law regarding notification to parents if the suspected abuse occurs on school property or while the child was under supervision or care of the school.
Question? D.
Revision of policy 5.109, evaluation. The revision will add the date by which teacher evaluation shall be completed.
Questions? Next.
Revision of policy 5.310, vacations and holidays. The revision would add the language 12-month full-time employees to the policy as those employees who are eligible for the applicable vacations and holidays. F, adoption of new policy 5.6101, employee participation in recreational and/or fitness activities. This policy would limit employee participation in recreational and physical fitness activities to those that occur during the regular school day as a part of the educational curriculum. Employee participation in recreational and/or physical fitness activities other than those specified would be voluntary, and injuries that result from such participation will not be covered by the board's on-the-job injury program.
Questions?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
this is workman comp, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's what we talked about.
Yep.
So,
Policy, revision of policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students. The revision would delete a section of the policy allowing students who lived outside the county at the time of adoption of this policy to continue to attend Rutherford County schools. And the recommendation will be to approve new policy 5.6101 and revised policies 3.206, 4.600, 6.409, 5.109, 5.310, and 6.204 on reading, second reading as recommended by the policy committee.
Any questions on any of them? Okay, go to the next.
No, but just for the viewers, we don't televise policy meetings, but policy committee is made up of the entire school board, citizens from the community, principals, teachers, who else? Central office staff, staff attorney. So there's a good mixture of folks that serve on that committee.
And you might want to mention that we've been through every policy this year, and they've all been revised, and this is just some more cleanup of those particular policies. So we have visited every single policy in our policy manual, and if anyone needs to look at any of those policies, they're all online.
12, revised policy, revision of policy 6.314, corporal punishment. The revision would remove the section of the policy stating the following. In determining the use and degree of corporal punishment, consideration will be given to the age, sex, size, physical, and emotional condition of the child. Recommend that we waive the second reading, second meeting limitation and approve policy 6.314 as presented by the policy committee.
Questions? Mark?
My question is just, Angel, I know, send us an email. I think Angel's here.
I didn't hear that, Dr.
Yeah,
Burns. What did you say?
I guess TSB inadvertently left out part of our policy when they revised it. Remember, we had this discussion about the voluntary or the parental opt-out provision?
Well, actually, what happened is our version of policy does contain that
Right.
language as it should. But TSBA has to send me revisions now. I don't have the ability to draft those myself any longer. I maintain the policy. So when he sent me the changes that you needed to consider for this meeting, that was not our policy, it was their model policy. So our policy is correct online.
Oh, okay. Oh, I misunderstood the email then.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like an odd way of them doing it.
I agree.
Thanks.
Any other questions? 13.
Student discipline appeal. The board has been requested to review the November 12, 2009 decision of the Disciplinary Hearing Authority to uphold the remandment of a student from Blackman High School to Smyrna West Alternative School. This review is pursuant to the provisions of Policy 6.309. The policy states that the board shall review the record and shall, 1, affirm the decision of the DHA, 2, modify the decision to a lesser penalty, 3, grant a second hearing which will be before the board, or 4, deny a request for a board hearing.
Questions? 14.
Termination of non-tenured teacher, appointment of independent hearing officer. The superintendent has suspended Mr. Jack Blosser, a non-tenured teacher from Blackman High School, without pay with the intent to terminate. Mr. Blosser has been charged with improper conduct unbecoming a member of the teaching profession, and insubordination. State law allows a non-tenured teacher to have a hearing before an impartial hearing officer if he or she chooses to contest the termination of his or her employment. Mr. Blosser has requested a hearing, and the Board of Education therefore needs to appoint someone to serve as a hearing officer in this matter. Mr. Dan Lawson has expressed his willingness to serve in this capacity if selected to do so by the board. Mr. Lawson is the director of Tullahoma City Schools. And we're recommending that you approve the appointment of Dan Lawson as an impartial hearing officer for the termination hearing of Jack Blosser.
Questions? Okay, next item is general discussion of board members. I know Doris has got something he wants to bring up, so.
Last Sunday in the Tennessean was an article entitled, "We Must Shoot for the Moon on Improving Schools." I don't know how many of you read this or saw it in the paper. if, I thought it was just, to me, very critical to the future of schools. And also, it points out the availability of some stimulus money that could be available. And I see people, you all have already seen this too, I know. And
Yeah, if I could give you a quick summary in response to that, I think that's referring to the race to the moon, race to the top.
Race to the top.
I'm back in the 60s, wasn't that the Sputnik era or something? Anyway, we're going to be asked in the very near future to sign a memorandum of understanding and to hopefully, according to Commissioner of Education, have 100% commitment to participate in what's called Race to the Top. Now, saying that, I'm going to put that over here a second. Next week, as part of that special call meeting, we should have a PowerPoint presentation to show you exactly what Race to the Top is, because by December the 18th, we have to submit my signature, the chairman of the board's signature, and hopefully the head of the REA to agree to pursue this funding for Race to the Top. Now, with that comes a lot of demands from the federal government and as part of the state's commitment to these stimulus funds, some of which will be extremely challenging, but that's kind of the status of it. When you get that grant money, typically what coincides with it are a lot of new regulations, a lot of requirements, and some of them will be challenging, but at any rate, we'll give you more information next week.
I was just wondering if it'd be worth copying and
Sure.
letting the board members have it, and maybe others on the staff, so that at least they will have read this article before the presentation.
Was it a possibility of a $400 million statewide? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's 400 statewide,
But
but
that
of course,
doesn't mean you get that much.
well, it's be divvied up, I presume, among 126 or 228 districts.
Stimulus money, is that?
Yeah,
stimulus money?
we may, and it's a 4-year commitment, right, Mr. Odom? And I think it's, I don't know if a lot of that $4 million to go to, I would assume, professional development, training, it's one and the same sometimes, but that's kind of where we're looking.
Kind of, some of these things kind of coincide with our meeting with the Saks folks.
That's correct.
And I'm wondering if it might not be beneficial to have every board member signature on that.
Well, it only asks for that one, but there's a lot of the items that, and you'll see that we are already doing, but then there's some things that we're not necessarily doing it, and so we'll have to look at that and make some kind of decision. And I'm sure TSBA will come out with something on this, and I'm sure TEA will too. So
I'm definitely sure TEA will.
Anyway, that's.
So we're doing that as part of the zoning meeting, is that?
Yeah, because we don't have the presentation now,
I want to make sure.
and we feel like you need to see it before that December 18th submission of that letter. So that's the only chance we
I
got.
didn't want to go ahead and sign something and y'all not see it.
No, I think
that's-
You'd be probably a little bit upset with me. Somebody come up and said, well, what about this? You know anything about it? Sir?
I meant to ask a question on 13. When will that discipline appeal be heard? You got anything set up on that?
Well, if you vote to hear it, I guess be at the next board meeting, wouldn't it, Angel?
Got anything on
It would be a
that?
special call meeting.
Special call.
It'll be special, okay.
We'll get to pass something.
We don't necessarily choose to hear it. I mean, that's just up to the board whether they want to hear it or not. If you want to uphold what the staff has done or to hear it.
But we haven't gotten the paperwork yet, am I correct on that? At least I haven't.
I don't think any.
I sent it with my motion. I didn't copy it. I can copy it for you.
Could I
I
ask
think
one
we
other
probably
question?
need a copy of it.
Pardon?
I think we probably need a copy of
Oh,
it.
yeah. I mean,
Well, but are you saying you thought you'd sent it, Angel?
No, I sent it to Ms. Myers with my motion. I should have copied it separately to give to the board. So
Okay.
I'll do that right now before they go.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
have we always done that, having a special meeting, if we decide to do that, a special meeting just for that? I think we'd,
There's very few that we've ever not upheld, so.
Yeah, I
Well,
understand.
there's very few appeals.
There's very few appeals.
I didn't know if there's any particular reason that we would have to have it
Usually,
separate.
But just for information, I mean, obviously, the disciplinary hearing authority is an appeal. You know, it goes to them after the school administration makes
I
their
understand
decision. Yeah, and a part of that team is typically Bob Mays, who heads up attendance. There's a principal or two, the school's there, the parents are there. I think ultimately there's 3 people that weigh in on that decision, aren't there, Angel?
That's right.
Yeah.
but it goes through 3 or 4 steps before it ever gets to us,
Yeah.
director of schools, the board, the hearing committee, and whatever, so.
But you certainly can hear it.
Any other questions, or anything else to be brought up? No.
Just on number 14, the hearing officer, we've done this several times before, but what is the normal rate of pay for a hearing officer? Do they have a set fee, or does it vary with hearing
I
officers?
think we paid, in the past, we've used local attorneys and paid them the hourly rate, hadn't we?
That's correct.
Yeah.
This time we would only be paying per diem travel expenses and for the day if we needed to.
Were you done, Donald? So what's the thinking of going from an attorney to he's a superintendent, right, or a director?
Well, step up here, Angela. I know we talked to TSBA, didn't we? Or Toss or somebody said that hit Dan and
I talked with several districts close
Yeah.
to us to see who they were utilizing for hearing officers. When I came to work for the school board, the procedure in the past had been to use local attorneys, so that's kind of what we stuck with. But I thought it is quite expensive for one thing, and there just aren't generally a lot of attorneys in this area that are familiar with school issues. So I thought it was worth looking into, to see what other districts were doing, and several districts around us are using directors from other systems, which qualifies under the statute. So Mr. Gill and I talked about it, and we thought it would be less expensive, number one, and number two, it would be somebody who had some experience with school issues. So that was why we
It's a
opted
good
for
idea. I
that.
didn't realize it was an option.
I didn't either until I did
That
some
is a good,
research.
save a little bit of money.
Okay, thanks.
Sir?
Might not be a bad idea just to see what the track record has been, if there's been any type of problems or any legal issues on using the superintendent or
I've already
non-attorney.
done that.
We checked that, yeah.
Anything else? Mr. Hodge, surely you have some words of wisdom.
Pretty quiet.
No.
You know, when we met the other night with the 2 items on the policy, the item about the bus thing, that we didn't go the route that was there, but I don't think that's a dead issue. I think there's some questions there about the failure rate, you might say, of our contractors. And if that is something that is unacceptable to our system, then I think it is something that, as a system, that we might need to look at and see if there's some program that we can't. I'm not saying change rate of pay or anything like that, but background checks, financial checks, or something. You know, if I go to buy something, or if I go to build something for the county, you know, I have to put up a bond to build it, right? And these people are contractors, so why wouldn't we expect them to be financially sound enough to keep their equipment in working order? And I don't have an answer. I didn't know we'd get through this quickly, or I would have been a little better prepared for discussing this, but that is something that's been on my mind a lot since that time. You know, we don't want to set people up for failure at any place. Certainly not our students, our teachers, or the people who are providing a service for us.
You would hope that they would go into purchase of a bus with some idea of the costs and all those things. That they should have some way of being, if they don't know, they ought to be told, you know, that this is not an easy thing necessarily, and you can fail at it if you don't take care of your bus and if you don't do the things that's necessary to make a profit.
Well, that's part of what you raised the other night.
That's
Maybe
what it
sit
was.
down with them and go over,
Financial
Before-
things.
before awarding the contract, going over financial or counseling or something like that. I know you mentioned the other night.
I just, the other night and tonight both, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip from the standpoint of just brainstorming this thing, but, and I don't know what the failure rate is. You know, out of 200 buses, it doesn't seem to me like that we're having an extraordinary number of changes in this down economy. I think people are pretty well trying to hold on to what they have, so to speak, but maybe it is. Are you dissatisfied, Mr. Snell, or do you think it was just the Bus Drivers Association dissatisfied?
Well, I'm with you. I certainly do not like to see somebody fail because it causes issues for us. Be that because they are not able to get a bus repaired in a timely manner. But we put in some guidelines in the contract that we hope would help us in regards to that, and that is the fact that we will take away money if we have to get the route covered. You know, if you go borrow $95,000 for a bus, the people that they gonna lend you that money are gonna have a pretty good discussion with you about whether or not you can pay it or not. We have provided to those institutions who've asked a breakdown from a financial standpoint of how much they'll get paid. And some of them, depending upon, you know, their credit, have had to be extremely exact in what we've told them about the route that they're gonna take, and how much it's gonna pay, so that they can be assured of getting their monies back. You know, some of the things that we talked about in the contract with regards to having a requirement of an 89 to a 90 passenger bus, I think will help us a little bit further down the road. That right now seems to give us some issue problems with regards to the 84 passengers that we allowed them to buy. Thinking that we were doing them a favor by not requiring, when gasoline prices were $4 a gallon, by giving them the ability to buy a bus that didn't cost $95,000. However, we found that what happened was is that those buses came from either the north or South Florida or in Florida, and were not kept up to snuff with regards from a salt standpoint, and caused us many problems. And then we had some issues with regards to the state and their being certified based upon some problems with the title. That was back to the beginning of the school year. So there has been some issues with regards to that, but I think everybody knows, you know, what they're getting into. But from time to time, it's just like in anything else, that they get hit with a transmission that goes down, and that's a big dollar amount that you weren't planning on. And so we struggle with that. So, be that as may, I'm not having, I'm not really feeling bad about the people that are going to turn them in because they can't keep up. I think most everybody, there have been a couple of cases that I know of, that the reason they turn them in is because their own financial bankruptcy situation caused them to have to turn them in.
Are the bus companies financing some of the buses themselves now?
Yes.
They do. Now that bus inspection has been completed, is it almost? What is the failure rate of our buses?
From the standpoint of the inspections themselves, and that would include all of the reasons why they would put them out of service, around a 60% rate. Now, what that means is that, and let me explain it, what that means is that, say, a mirror was loose when it came through inspection. That mirror has to be tightened, or a new bolt has to be put in, and many times during the same day, that's taken care of. Taken Mid-South or another vendor takes care of those situations. It can be as small as that to as big as a leaking gasoline tank or diesel tank.
So that, when you're talking about failure rate, you're talking about something that could be quite simple.
Could be. Could be. Things that you know, like a good example is tires, from the standpoint of having enough tread on the tire.
Do we know how many buses that we had that were just grounded immediately?
No, that number that I'm giving you, that 60% includes all.
Includes that, everything.
That's everything.
Yeah, but some of that 60%, they're back on the road real soon. I mean,
Yeah, that's
we've
what-
had some been out for a week or,
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Well, I know of one very, very well that a bolt was missing out of the A-frame, out of the triangles for the, when they had to stop on the side of the road, you know, that
Right, right.
until that triangle was repaired, it had failed inspection.
It's just like whenever you're pulled over by the police. Sometimes the guy says, well, I'm gonna give you a warning today. Sometimes you don't give him a warning. You know, and depending on who the inspector is. So, which, don't get me wrong, I put them out. I want them to be safe. That's
Right,
the most important
right.
thing. Most important thing.
That's
I don't
why,
care. I told the lieutenant, Ray Robinson of the pupil transportation for the state, I'm with you 100%. Whatever you think needs to be done, we'll take care of it.
does our buses and our bus system within the state have a average reputation for being safe buses on the road, or how are we looked upon?
We're looked upon as being having a very safe, a very good-looking bus fleet from the outside people.
I would be very disappointed if that wasn't the case, because when you go to private-owned contractor, that is one of the expectations you would have. Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Any other discussion or questions?